Hi, I'm Charlie from CookingSecretsForMen.com, and this is another installment of Cooking with Milwaukee Community Leaders. I'm very pleased to have as my guest today, Dr. Nelson Soler. Dr. Soler, Nelson.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for coming. So, Dr. Soler, Nelson, is the founder, Chief Strategy Officer, and Chief Solutions Officer of the, let me get this straight, Multicultural Entrepreneurial Institute.
That is correct.
There you go. Okay, good. So we'll talk about the Institute in just a minute. We'll get to that. I want to talk about your early years, your upbringing, and then through education, and then we'll get to the your current work. So you were born in Puerto Rico.
That's correct.
And then you moved to New York at some point. I went to as a charter school, Eugenio Maria de Hostas charter school.
Yeah, that was Eugenio Maria de Hostos was the school that I went at Puerto Rico.
Oh, in Puerto Rico.
In
Okay.
Puerto Rico, and then from there, when I transferred to New York, because my mother moved from Puerto Rico to New York when she divorced my father.
Okay.
So she wanted to put some sea between them.
Sure.
So she moved there, and about 3 years later, after I finished high school and started college, then I transferred to the State University of New York at Buffalo.
Okay. So you moved from Puerto Rico to New York as a teenager.
Yes.
Great. Okay. And then you were in that, and then so education-wise, your education credentials very impressive. You have 2 degrees from the University of Buffalo. Go Bulls. And this is an interesting coincidence, which I'll get to. So you have BS in electrical engineering.
Correct.
And you have BA in economics.
Correct.
So I have 2 sons. My youngest son, Carlo, who's 28, has a BS in electrical engineering. And my older son, Luke, who's 30, has a BA in economics. So, I mean, that's the chances of that coincidence is pretty rare. All right, so MBA from UWM and a doctorate from Cardinal Stritch in philosophy, among others. I mean, you have a long history of higher education. So did you have a plan, or did your educational journey kind of evolve over time?
My education journey evolved over time. So I have a funny story about that. When I was a kid, I grew up with my grandmother, and she always tried to push me to be a doctor until I saw blood. So I had a calling that was not what I wanted to do. So I was very good in science. I was very good in math. So one of the things that people in my counseling and my general circle started talking about was to go into engineering. So at the time I was interested in biomedical engineering, but that was many months ago. That didn't exist in Puerto Rico. So the only choice I had was electrical, mechanical, or chemical. So I chose chemical engineering until I took physical chemistry. That was my call. I took all my chemistry, did all my pre-requirements for chemical engineering, but when I took my first engineering class we used to call it INCO, in chemical engineering, I said, this is not for me. So I switched to electrical. I completed 1 semester of electrical there. I enjoyed the program. And then, but my mother divorced my father, so I was always curious to move to New York. So what I did was I applied for the State University of New York at Buffalo, and then transferred there to finish my degree. When I was doing electrical engineering, we had in the Buffalo University a lot of individuals that were working in corporate, and they were telling us as engineers that were not working in corporate, you need to get some management classes, you need to have a second field. Because in Puerto Rico, you're required to take a social science with your engineering degree. I had all my courses in economics. So it was really easy to leap into a new degree in 1 semester. So instead of graduating, I stayed 1 more semester, and then with all the transfer credit, I received my economics degree.
Very good. So as impressive as your education credentials are, your community work is even more so. So you're on the Police and Fire Commission here in Milwaukee.
I was.
At 5 or 6 years. You were the founder, president, CEO of the Latino Chamber here in southeastern Wisconsin, and a variety of other. The list is very long, I have to say. So talk a little bit about your community service and some of the things that you've been involved with that go under the banner of trying to make our city a better place.
Correct. So my community involvement started obviously in Buffalo. When I was a student, I was the president of the Latino Association. and that got me to work with refugees, with different groups of individuals in a multicultural environment. So when I moved to Milwaukee, I brought that seed with me. So I came here to do my MBA because I received a full package from the university to be sponsored. And as soon as I hit that, I figure out how do I connect with community, what things are going here. So I was the founder actually of the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers at UW in Milwaukee. And then with that organization and the Latino organization that was in place, we were able to do some community work. So I was always intrigued with that. I went to the corporate side. You know, you go to school, that's what everybody advised you. So I went to corporate, I went to banking. I didn't enjoy it that much. Then from banking, through a friend, I went to international mining. That took me through places I'd never been before. I had the opportunity to work with people all over the world, South Africa, Australia, and learn about different cultures, different method of communications. So I found my way back to community by quitting that corporate job and going into the university system. So I became a faculty associate, which the primary goal to create community partnerships with the university. In part, those community partnerships involve creating the Hispanic Entrepreneurship Center. I work extensively with minority contractors, and I also work with at the time called the Institute of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. So that with those connections of working with low to moderate income entrepreneurs, then I found my passion, which is what I'm doing these days. And it was a long process. As you say, it wasn't like a plan to be a community service. I planned to be a nonprofit leader. I planned to be an entrepreneur. It came as I evolved as a person and was dissatisfied with what I call CAR, which is curiosity, authenticity, and respect. And I think that over time, as a society, we're losing that CAR connect. That CAR connect is accepting people where they are and not imposing your criteria of people. I think we're living in a society that is so polarized that if you are not in agreement with me, you're against me. And that's not how I was brought up. I was brought up in an environment in which one of my grandmothers was black, so it was a black family, different religion, different way to cook, what we're gonna do today. And then I have my Spanish side that they came from Galicia immigrants to work on the land in Puerto Rico. So those two cultures were always part of my upbringing. I never saw, when I saw my grandpa and I saw a black man, I didn't think about race. This is grandpa. When I saw my great grandmother from my mother's side, and she had blue eyes. You know, she was. She died. She was like 113 years old. So we come from a family don't living.
Good genes.
Good genes. Totally different cultures. I saw her with blue eyes. I didn't see that like out of the norm. I have family that are red, family that have green eyes, blue eyes, and on the other side I have family that are black. And if they will come here, and you will see my brothers and sisters, you say they're not brothers and sisters because we're representing all the races.
Sure. Well, that goes a long way. And this is one of the reasons we like to talk to people about their background, their upbringing, because it paints a picture of how you get to where you are today, which is the founder of the Multicultural Entrepreneurial Institute. When you've been there about 16, 17 years?
It's going to be 17 now.
17 years. So talk a little bit about the mission of the Institute.
Well, I will be brief. The Institute, I founded the Institute after being disenchanted with the corporate world and all the jobs that I had. And I started the Institute in the basement of my house. And my mom was my first employee. She only lasted 6 months. I had to fire her. She wouldn't respect the corporate policy, right? So I started the idea of, I've been through my life through all these different organizations, different background, banking, engineering, finance, and so on. And I didn't see a place where everybody could connect. So I want to create a place in which anyone that was aspiring to own a business, to improve their financial situation, could come and will be treated equally. So this multicultural idea came with, and I started that with no money out of the blue. And then today, 17 years later, I own my building. I have a co-working space. I have helped 6,089 individuals to start their business. Wow. And one of my highlights was I almost closed in 2010. And I always tell that story to my entrepreneurs. I was sitting, it was close to Thanksgiving, and I had to tell my employees, I gotta send you all home because I don't have money to make payroll, so I'm gonna give you a longer week. And I was sitting there putting a package together for a client, and all of a sudden the phone rings. And it was a person from an agency here and saying, listen, about a month ago you put this RFP together for our agency, and we're looking at it, we liked it, so we are going to grant you $435,000 as a sub to this program, and then we wanted to assess because we're getting close to the holiday when you're available. So I said, let me check with my assistant account later. Put the phone down. I cried like a baby. I grabbed the phone again. Oh, I'm available on Tuesday at this time. And that really showed me the importance of really working hard what you do and always having more than one pot in your stove.
Yes.
So something gets burned, you can take the other one and continue cooking.
So that's an amazing statistic that you just did. Over 6,000 people have helped start businesses. That's it. And it runs the gamut, mostly here in Milwaukee?
Has been throughout southeastern Wisconsin.
Okay.
But I had clients that I helped all the way up to Green Bay, all the way down to Beloit. So it's kind of an arch. I had done some work in Madison and Wausau, but because of I cannot clone myself, and many of the work that I do depends on my ability to engage individuals, to articulate things, to develop curriculum. I had contained a little bit of my growth. Now, after COVID, when everything changed, and now we have all these possibilities with social media, with teleconferencing, it's affordable, it's no longer a luxury. I've been able to maintain that footprint.
Good. That's it. It's fascinating to listen to people's stories, and yours is both different and not different than everybody who comes on the show, and I do appreciate it. So, talk a little bit about your family.
My family. Well, mom moved back with me, which has been a blessing and a curse. She moved. She used to live in New York with my sister.
Even after you fired her, she
moved back. So she spends a portion of her year with me, not winter, because she has a lot of ailments.
Sure.
And my partner, we have been together for 16 years, and we've been married for 10.
Nice.
We had no kids.
Okay.
We have thought about adopting a couple times and different options, but thus far we haven't done that. I have over 30 nephews and nieces. I help my sister with two of my nieces that I enjoy the fatherly uncle love, but in the distance, right? You don't have to do diapers all the time, that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So I had lived and enjoy the concept of fatherhood, and now I have grand nieces that come and visit me and visit them. So I haven't missed that in my life, but it's something that.
So is your mother the only relative that's in this area?
My mother is the only relative I have in Milwaukee. My one brother and sister are in New York.
Okay.
One brother lives half of his life in New York and Panama.
Okay.
And the rest of my father family and my mother family is in Puerto Rico.
Okay. All right. So we call this serious people with serious jobs having a little fun. So we're having a little fun today. So Nelson, what are we cooking today?
Well, I'm gonna make arroz con gandules. Now, in people that live outside the island, sometimes call that Puerto Rican rice. It's not Puerto Rican rice. We make all kinds of rices, right? Specifically, we do for Christmas. It's a Christmas celebration because we use gandules, which is a type of pea that is not easy to cultivate. It takes a long time, and people cherish that. So we're making arroz con gandules style, combining Grandma Lala with Grandma Heno. So the Spanish side always cook with a lot of cumin, no lard, always olive oil. My other side cook with lard, a lot of oregano, so different spices. So I kind of developed my own.
Good.
And that's what we're gonna try today, arroz con gandules.
Great. Well, you brought as most people do, you come here wearing nice clothes. So I want to give you one of our aprons to put on so you don't get all oogie when you're over there. So we're gonna get set up. We've done a little bit of prep work, and so we're gonna go over and we're gonna cook Tell me the name again. It's not Puerto Rican rice, but
It's arroz con gandules or rice. And you translate, which is not the best translation, is rice with pigeon peas. So it's a different type of pea.
they look like peas, but they're called pigeon beans.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Great. All right. So give us a minute to set up, and we'll be right back. All right. So we're set up here. Nelson, take it away.
Okay, so what we have here is a marinated pork, and my
What kind of pork is this? Shoulder?
is just regular
Pork tenderloin?
pork tenderloin.
Gotcha.
So I marinated it last evening, and I put pepper, a little bit of salt, oregano, and paprika.
Okay.
Okay, so I did that mix, rub it a little bit, and put a little bit of olive oil, which I love olive oil because I grew up with olive oil in my house. And then before today, right now, a few minutes ago, I just sauteed it. And I'm gonna use this as a base I'm gonna add to my rice.
Very good.
Typically when we do the rice, there's always something else, like people do roasted pork, but we don't have 3 hours to make roasted pork today. So I chose to put a little bit of pork inside the rice, which was something that my abuela Lala did, my African side. In addition to that, so we're gonna make rice.
Okay.
Rice, I have a cup of rice here. I like to use jasmine to cook because it cooks quickly, and as a professional, sometimes I don't have a lot of time. I'm gonna have some olives with it,
Okay.
and a little bit of olive.
So those
And
are olives with pimentos?
that's with pimentos. That's from my Spanish side, African side, and then we make sofrito. And then some of you will make it with different, in the island they make it with different ingredients. Yeah, mine is, if you notice a little bit, it's a little bit reddish because I like to use tomatoes to make it. This is a sweet pepper that we use. It's back in the island to make our sofrito. We have, I put tomato, this pepper, cilantro, oregano, a little bit of oil. I have all my ingredients here. So a little bit of oil, bit of pepper, but some people don't like pepper. I had a little branch of oregano from my house because I use natural oregano when I make it. And then you just put that in the blender. If you want it to last for an entire week, I suggest you put enough salt to your taste and a little bit of olive oil. So you have the vegetable.
Cubanelle?
Yeah. It's not hot, it's sweet.
Right, yeah.
It's a sweet pepper. Some people use a regular pepper that we find in the States all the time too, but that makes it really green. And then I don't like very green.
Gotcha.
In the beans that we were talking about, and you can see here the translation.
Right.
Okay, so they call them pigeon peas. I don't know why. I don't know who translated it, but they're very similar to a pea, but they have a very distinctive flavor. You can find them in the Caribbean and some other countries like Ecuador will produce them. And in some countries they use it to feed pork or to feed cattle. They don't use it for cooking.
Right.
But for us it's a delicacy that we use really during Christmas primarily. Now, when you're in the States, if they want to identify us as Puerto Rican, they say, well, we have Puerto Rican rice, or you want white rice? Well, that's what they mean with Puerto Rican rice. It's rice with these beans.
Gotcha.
I cannot, for a fragrance on the rice, I use
Those
Laurel.
are fresh.
Yeah. So I use this. I put 4 when the rice dries. And then this is in honor of my mom because she said that no Puerto Rican rice is right if you don't use tomato sauce. Now, when I do it myself, for myself with no guest, I don't use tomato sauce. I actually take a couple of tomatoes, blend them, and make my own sauce.
Fresh tomatoes.
But again, we don't have time to make sauce. So those are the things that we're going to use in making our rice today.
Okay. So we're going to, I guess, get the rice started. And we're going to cook. We also have some bananas somewhere.
These are sweet bananas. And my grandma has 7 kinds of bananas in her home. So she used to fry this to us when we were kids. So I thought this will be a good addition to our meal today.
Well, I see those in the grocery store all the time. And I've always wondered what to do with them. So now I know. All right. So give us about 1 minute and we'll get organized here and then we'll get to cooking. All right. So here's the beginning of the rice. Nelson's put all the ingredients in. It was about 1.5 cups of water. And then the pigeon beans, put some sofrito in, half a teaspoon of salt, and some tomato sauce. And am I missing something?
Tomato sauce, and then I use what we call achiote oil, which is a natto. It's a seed that you can find in any store. And then you have it in a little bit of oil, olive oil, about this much. And then you put the seed there for coloring. We're obsessed with coloring in the island. So I want a little bit of reddish on the rice when we make it. So when it's boiling, you let it boil for a little bit until the whole thing is boiling. And then you're going to take your washed rice and put it in it.
And you can tell that he just washed it there.
Yeah, I just washed it. I like to cook rice with wood spoons.
Okay.
And then I let it that way until it boils and dries. Then when it dries, then I cover it and put it in simmer mode for about 10 to 15 minutes with jasmine rice, which is what I love. In 15 minutes you have rice.
And then once the rice has finished, then you put the pork in?
Correct.
Gotcha.
So I'm going to let it boil a little bit so it doesn't get too mushy.
Right.
Otherwise it will get a little mushy. When I see a lot of excess water, one of the things I do, I will take the same thing and take a little bit of water out so that the rice doesn't get into that texture. We want the rice to be somewhat dry, not too mushy, kind of like similar to the fried rice.
So you can see it's starting to get a little simmering over there, so it'll be ready to go in just a minute. So we'll let this go. We'll get organized with the bananas. We'll probably be cooking those while the rice is cooking, and then we'll put it all together.
Sounds good.
All right, so where the rice is just about finished and you just put a couple of bay leaves on?
Yeah, I did that for fragrance. People like to put a little cilantro or any other herb you like. So then you put it in simmer mode so it doesn't burn.
Right.
And then cover it for about 15 minutes and it will be done.
Okay. All right, and then we're gonna come over here. We're gonna fry these bananas in just a second. All right, so Nelson is getting our bananas ready. We've got some oil heating. And this will take, you can see this little...
So this you probably need, depending on, a couple of minutes.
And you don't put anything on them. They're just frying the bananas.
Just frying the bananas naturally. Some people like to put them in salt water before they fry them. Some people like to put some adobo, and adobo you can find it in almost every store. And it's a mixture of different dried herbs. And I have a sample there for those who like this. If you want to be true to the recipe, you sprinkle some of this.
All right, so the rice is basically finished. We're going to turn the bananas a couple times, and can't wait to try those. And then we're going to plate it, and we're going to sit down. And Nelson, I think we have to taste it.
Yep.
Okay, we got a consensus. We're going to eat the food we just cooked. All right, so we'll be right back. All right, here we are. This is tell me again the name.
Arroz con gandules.
You can see the fried bananas there. Tell us what's in there.
So we have the pigeon peas, a little bit of pork with the rice, and then 2 baby bananas on the side. Then for decoration, a bay leaf, and that's also for fragrance of the rice. You can choose any leaf or any herb you like. Some people like cilantro, some people like oregano. So it's up to you. So this is the final look. If you go and see different restaurants, you'll see that in some restaurants it's reddish because they use a more annatto, which is it gives them a red color. I use a bit of it, but not too much because I like the green color that comes with the actual bean.
All right, well, let's dig in. Let's see what we got here. A little piece of pork with the pigeon beans and the rice. Wow. I don't know if I mentioned, but I didn't have breakfast this morning.
Oh,
So this is breakfast.
breakfast and
lunch, probably.
lunch.
It's delicious. Oh wow! I need to do the same thing with the olive and the pork.
So having the banana combines the salty flavor of the rice and does a balance with flavors with olives too. And the olives are salty, So it's kind of a mixture of flavors in your mouth, explosion of sour and
But yeah, the banana works great with this. It's
Yeah.
wonderful. And the pork, perfectly done. Probably the tenderloin cooks a lot quicker, so this
Correct.
is an easier dish to make with that.
some people don't like to use pork and they use ham or they put sausage in it.
Uh-huh.
So my mom, when she doesn't have pork, she uses sausage. It's a Puerto Rican salami that is common in the island that we inherited from the Spanish.
Uh-huh.
And my other grandma from the Spanish side, the Galician one, she loved Spanish chorizos.
Oh, yeah.
And you can use the Spanish chorizo and cut it in pieces and put it in the rice, and it gives a very distinctive flavor to it.
Well, this is fabulous. So I always joke with the guest who comes in. They come in, they take time out of their day on a beautiful Saturday, interview them, ask them a bunch of questions about themselves. They make a great meal. I get to eat it, and you get an apron. So that's the way it works around here. So Nelson, thanks so much for coming.
Thank
It's
you
really
for having
a pleasure to have you here today. Make this great food. Find out more about your work with the Institute, Multicultural Entrepreneurial Institute here
That
in
is
Milwaukee.
correct.
And as he mentioned, he's had helped over 6,000 businesses get started here in the greater Milwaukee, southeastern Wisconsin area, which is just a phenomenal amount to help people get started. And that's, we love to do these shows because it shines a light on people who are trying to make our city a better place. So we really do appreciate it. So check out the Multicultural Entrepreneurial Institute. It's got plenty of online presence. Check out more of our videos for Cooking with Community Leaders. And we appreciate everyone's support. Thanks for your comments along the way. And as always, thanks for watching.
Thank you.